Hello, kids. It's time for another bedtime story. No? So, ready na kayo, ha? Relax na kayo, ha? Kasi may story tayo. Napakagandang story. Ang title ng story natin is The Five Chinese Brothers. Ilan? Five. Parang kabayan party list. Five. No? Five Chinese brothers. Ito po yan. Babasahin ko po to. Pero siyempre, itatagalog ko. English, tapos itatagalog natin. Okay? Ready na ba kayo? Yan sila, oh. Yan yung five Chinese brothers. Wow! Okay? Once upon a time, there were five Chinese brothers. 5 sila, magkapatid. And they look exactly alike. Kamukha sila lahat. Di ba kambal? Sobra pa sa kambal kasi 5 sila, no? So silang 5 magkamukha, mga Chinese. They live with their mother in a little house not far from the sea. So sa dagat sila, malapit sa dagat. Yung house nila malapit sa dagat. The first Chinese brother could swallow the sea. Madrink niya ang lahat ng sea. Wow! Nasaswallow niya ang sea. Kasi yun ang power ng first Chinese brother. The second Chinese brother had an iron neck. Yung neck niya may skin, pero sa loob ng skin, iron. Bakal. Ting, ting, ting. Matigas. Yun ang power ng second Chinese brother. Anong power ng third Chinese brother? The third Chinese brother could stretch and stretch and stretch his legs. Yung legs niya humahaba, mag-stretch. Yun ang power ng third Chinese brother. And the fourth Chinese brother could not be burned. Hindi siya mapaso, hindi siya nasusunog. And the fifth Chinese brother could hold his breath indefinitely. So yung fifth Chinese brother, pwede siya hindi huminga. Huh? Matagal, kahit matagal. Pwede siya. Kasi yun ang power ng fifth Chinese brother. So ito sila magkapatid na 5 sila. Iba-iba yung kanilang power. Tapos, one day, every morning, the first Chinese brother would go fishing. And whatever the weather, he would come back to the village with beautiful and rare fish which he had caught and could sell at the market at a very good price. Kasi yung first Chinese brother, di ba nasaswallow niya yung water? So pag naswallow niya yung water, madali lang siya makakuha ng mga fish kasi yung fish, hindi na nagsiswim kasi yung mga water nang sinasa mouth na niya. One day, as he was leaving the marketplace, a little boy, hindi niya brother, may lumapit sa kanya. Stop him and ask him if he could go fishing with him. Sabi niya, pwede ako sama. Hindi niya to brother. Parang friend lang. Gusto daw niya sama. Sabi niya, no, it could not be done. Sabi nung first na Chinese brother. Hindi daw pwede. But the little boy begged and begged, and finally the first Chinese brother consented. So pumayag na lang kasi makulit. Sabi niya, please, please, please. Sige na lang. Sama ka na lang. Sabi niya, okay, you can join fishing with me, pero wag matigas ang ulo. Sabi niya. Sabi nung little boy, yes, thank you. So, nagwent to fishing sila. Early next morning, the first Chinese brother and the little boy went down the beach. So, pumunta na sila sa sea. Remember, said the Chinese brother. Remember, ha? Follow me. You must follow me. Pag anong sinabi ko, follow me. When I make a sign for you to come back, sabi niya, pag sabi kong balik na, you must come back at once. So kasi mag-fishing na, so sabi nung Chinese brother, pag sabi ko balik, balik na ha? Promise. Sabi niya ganun. Sabi nung little boy, yes, 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 promise, promise. Then the first Chinese brother swallowed the whole sea. Swinalo niya yung buong dagat. Sinwalo niya ang sea. Tapos, yung sea nandito na sa mouth niya. And all the fish were left high and dry at the bottom of the sea. And all the treasures of the sea lay uncovered. May mga treasures. Nakita kasi sinwalo niya yung sea. So the little boy was delighted. He ran here and there, stuffing pockets, strange pebbles, extraordinary shells. Hala, hanap-hanap siya. Ito, tinan nyo. Excuse me. Ayan siya, yung first Chinese brother. Sinalo niya ang buong sea, lumaki ang face niya. Tinan mo ang sea. Oh, merong mga treasure, yung mga ship ng pirates, andyan mga treasure, tapos iba't ibang klaseng mga shells. So, ang naiwan kasi nga sinwalo na niya yung water sa sea. Tapos, near the shore, the first Chinese brother gathered some fish while he kept holding the sea in his mouth. So, habang nakaganon yung mouth niya, kuha din siya ng mga fish. Presently, he grew tired. So, napagod na siya kasi yung sea nandun sa mouth niya. It is very hard to hold the sea. So, he made a sign with his hand for the little boy to come back. So, ganun siya. Sabi niya, balik, balik, balik. Hindi siya makatok kasi yung sea nandun sa mouth niya. The little boy saw him but paid no attention. Sabi nung bata, enjoy ako dito kasi may mga treasures. Ganun-ganun siya. Hindi na kasi niya ma-hold. No, no, no. I'm enjoying. Si ganun yung bata. Na-enjoy daw siya. Tapos napagod na talaga siya. Ganun na siya. Tapos ayan na, nahirapan na siya. Oh, hindi na niya makaya kasi yung mouth niya hindi na mapigilan. Gusto na lumabas yung sea. The first Chinese brother made great movements with his arms that meant, come back, balik, balik, balik. But the little boy did not care. Not a bit, and he ran further away. Lumayo pa yung bata, tigas yung ulo. Then the first Chinese brother felt the sea swelling inside him and he made desperate gestures to call the little boy back. But the little boy made faces, sabi niya, no, 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 enjoy ako dito. And fled as fast as he could. Pumunta pa siya doon sa malalim. Pero wala pang water kasi yung water nandoon pa sa mouth nung first Chinese brother. The first Chinese brother held the sea until he thought he was going to burst. O hindi na niya kaya talaga. All of a sudden, the sea forced its way out of his mouth, went back to its bed, and the little boy disappeared. Lumabas yung water sa mouth niya na super dami yung sa sea, bumalik doon tapos na-drown yung little boy kasi matigas ang ulo. Sinabihan na pag sumama ka sa akin, dapat bumalik ka na kaagad. Hindi man siya bumalik. So, na-drown siya kasi lumabas na yung water sa mouth niya. When the Chinese brother returned to the village alone, he was arrested, put in prison, tried and condemned to have his head cut off. Kasi 'di ba pag-uwi niya wala na yung little boy. So nilagay siya sa prison. Kasi ibig sabihin, siya yung nag-kill sa little boy. Pero 'di ba hindi siya nag-kill kasi matigas lang ang ulo ng little boy. Pero siyempre, siya pa rin may kasalanan. Ganun kasi yan. Kasi siya man yung older. So, kailangan daw putulin ang ulo niya. Yun ang punishment niya. I-cut yung head niya. Sabi niya, Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye? Sabi niya, It's only fair, said the judge. Sabi niya, pwede ba ako, before niyo i-cut ang head ko, pwede ba na umuwi muna ako? Kasi mag-say pa ako ng goodbye sa mami ko. Sabi niya ganyan. Sabi nung judge, okay. So the first Chinese brother went home. And the second Chinese brother came back in his place. Di ba five sila? Di ba same lang ang face nila? So nung umuwi na yung first Chinese brother na makaswallow ng sea, ang bumalik yung second Chinese brother pero hindi nila nalaman kasi same lang yung face niya, 'di ba? Kasi kamukha sila eh, no? So bumalik na siya. All the people were assembled on the village square to witness the execution. Sunod sila lahat yung mga tao na ikat yung head ng first Chinese brother kasi dahil sa kanya daw na-drown daw yung little boy. The executioner took his sword and struck a mighty blow. Ginanon nung executioner yung mayroong axe na big, ginanon yung head. Push! Tinamaan dito yung second Chinese brother. But the second Chinese brother got up and smiled. Na-smile lang. He was the one with the iron neck. Di ba yung second Chinese brother, ang power niya iron neck, and they simply could not cut his head off. Hindi nila makat ang kanyang head. Everybody was angry and they decided that he should be drowned. Galit ang mga tao kasi hindi siya nga makil. Kasi iron neck yung second brother. Sabi ng mga tao, kailangan siya ma-drown. I-drown daw siya. Kasi nga na-drown yung bata, dapat i-drown na lang siya. So, sabi niya, on the morning of the execution, the second Chinese brother said to the judge, Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye? Sabi niya gusto niya umuwi kasi mag-say din siya ng goodbye sa mother niya. So the second Chinese brother went home and the third Chinese brother came back. So yung bumalik, yung third Chinese brother, hindi na yung second. Kasi di ba same lang yung face nila. He was pushed on the boat, which made for the open sea. So doon siya sa boat, tapos doon sa open sea, sa malalim na dagat, pinush siya. When they were far out on the ocean, the Chinese brother was thrown overboard. But he began to stretch his legs. Di ba? Yung power ng third Chinese brother. Nagsistretch yung legs. Kasi ang first Chinese brother, ang power niya, swallow the ocean. Ang second Chinese brother, iron neck. Yung neck niya parang bakal. Yung third Chinese brother, yung kanyang legs nag-grow, nagiging taller and taller. So nag-stretch yung kanyang legs doon sa sea, way down to the bottom. And umabot talaga sa bottom. Tingnan niyo ang nangyari. What? What? Tingnan mo, what? Yung paa niya, oh. Ang haba. What? So hindi siya nag-drown kasi nakatayo pa rin siya sa sea kasi nga yung kanyang feet, yung legs niya super haba. His smiling face was bobbing up and down on the crest of the waves. Smile lang siya kasi humaba lang yung paa niya. Everybody was very angry and they all decided that he should be burned. I-burn na lang daw kasi hindi pa rin siya nade-dead. On the morning of the execution, the third Chinese brother said to the judge, sabi niya, Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye? Sabi na niya, pwede ba umuwi kasi mag-kiss pa ako sa mami ko ng goodbye kasi nga, i-burn niyo na ako. Sabi ng judge, it is only fair. So, okay, sinabi ng judge. So, the third Chinese brother went home and the fourth Chinese brother came back in his place. So, iba na naman ang bumalik. Kasi di ba same lang ang face nila, kamukha kasi sila eh. Kasi ngayon, i-burn na siya. He was tied up to a stake. Fire was set to it, and all the people stood around to watch kasi maburn na siya. In the midst of the flames, they heard him say, "This is quite pleasant." Binaburn na siya. Nakasmile pa rin. Biniburn na siya. Nakasmile pa rin. Sabi niya, "Bring some more wood." Sabi niya. The fire roared higher. Now it is quite comfortable. Sabi niya, okay lang. And the fourth Chinese brother, for he was the one who could not be burned. Everybody was getting more and more angry every minute, and they all decided to smother him. So, ang ginawa nila, gusto nila yung ang ipanish na lang sa kanya kasi hindi man siya ma-burn. Gusto nila yung hindi siya makahinga. Yun ang para ma-dead na talaga siya kasi hindi siya ma-drown, hindi maano yung neck niya. Hindi siya maano ng fire. Sabi niya kailangan hindi na siya makahinga. Yun ang sabi ng mga tao. On the morning of the execution, the fourth Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye?" Sabi niya kasi gusto daw niya mag-kiss muna sa mami niya. Sabi ng judge, "Okay." So the fourth Chinese brother went home, and the fifth Chinese brother came back in his place. Kasi kamukha sila, di ba? So yung pumalit, yung fifth brother, na iba din yung kanyang power. A large brick oven had been built on the village square and it had been stuffed with whipped cream. The fifth Chinese brother was shoveled into the oven right in the middle of the cream, and the door was shut tight, and everybody sat around waited. So pinasok siya sa parang place na hindi siya makahinga. Ayan. So nung pinasok siya dyan, tinan mo nakasmile lang siya. Pagpasok niyan, kinlose. So hindi siya talaga makahinga kasi merong whipped cream. So lahat ng air hindi na makapasok. Pero nakasmile lang siya. Pero lahat ng tao ngayon nagwe-wait. Kasi siyempre dapat na dead na siya. They were not going to be tricked again, sabi ng mga tao. So they stayed there all night and even a little after dawn just to make sure. So nag-wait talaga sila ng ilang oras. How many hours nag-wait talaga sila? And then they opened the door and pulled him out. And he shook himself and said, "My, that was a good sleep." What? Paglabas niya, nakasmile lang siya. Tapos sabi niya, "Wow, sarap naman ng sleep ko." Nag-sleep lang siya, hindi nga siya makahinga doon. Pero dahil may power siya, ang power kasi ng fifth brother, the Chinese brother, pwede siyang hindi huminga ng matagal. Everybody stared open mouth and round eye. But the judge stepped forward and said, sabi ng judge, "We have tried to get rid of you in every possible way, and somehow it cannot be done. It must be that you are innocent." So sabi ng mga tao, "Yes, yes," shouted the people. So they let him go and he went home. Kasi nga hindi daw siya ma-dead, so siguro innocent siya. Pero sa totoo, alam niyo innocent, wala siyang kasalanan, wala man siyang kasalanan. Matigas lang kasi yung boy, yung doon sa, yung nag-fishing sila. And the five Chinese brothers and their mother all lived together happily for many years. The end. So yan. Yan ang five Chinese brothers. And look, kamukha silang lahat. Okay? So, the lesson dito is, kung ikaw ay good person, pag good ka, malalaman din ng tao na good person ka. Story lang naman yun. Wala namang ganun na story. Pero ibig sabihin dito, if you're an innocent person, God will help you because wala ka namang kasalanan. So don't be worried na kahit meron magsabi na bad ka, kasi alam mo na good ka. So don't worry kasi malalaman naman ng tao na good ka. Okay? So it's time for you to sleep. But before you sleep, say a prayer and God bless you. Good night.